All right, hello everybody who's joining us. You'll see we're in a classroom today. Doesn't affect the Torah in any way. Hi everyone. Welcome, welcome. We are continuing in Tractate Chagiga. I'm still Rabbi Tobin at B'nai Shalom in West Orange. It's Monday, it's 1 o'clock, so we must be studying Talmud.
No, it's 12 o'clock.
It's 12 o'clock. Oh, 1 o'clock we would be done studying Talmud. All right, so as a reminder, we're on page 15a, the beginning of 15a, and we are in a section of chapter 2 of Tractate Chagiga, which is dealing with, Nat, you're looking for some Torah to study? Pass this around. Pass that over to Nat, will you? We're in a section of the second chapter of Chagiga, which is leaping off a Baraita that Arba'a nichnasu lePardes, 4 entered. Now, I've been translating Pardes as paradise or Gan Eden. The word literally means an orchard. So if you want to be minimalist in your reading of this, it's 4 entered an orchard. 1 died, 1 went crazy, 1 turned into a heretic, 1 went in peace and came out in peace, or 1 went up in peace and came down in peace. So obviously it's not an ordinary orchard. So that's why we have been translating it as paradise or the heavenly realm or the Garden of Eden or whatever it is. Pardes is a very earthy image or an earthy metaphor for a world to come. To call the world to come, a paradise means a lush, verdant, fertile region. That's what paradise means. All right? So, and it comes from this word pardes. Okay, so we didn't have anything after the Baraita about Ben Azai because he died and there wasn't much more to say. There was a Torah verse that got attached to him. Then we had Ben Zoma. God bless Ben Zoma. Ben Zoma really carved out a niche for himself in rabbinic law. We asked him about the neutering of animals and the impregnation of virgins. And we made it through those passages more or less intact. We are going to finish the Ben Zoma section here very quickly. There's one more thing associated with him. And then the Gemara transitions to Acher, to a long series of stories associated with the great heretic of Rabbinic Judaism, Elisha ben Abuya. We are going to skip that section entirely for now, and we're going to move on to Rabbi Akiva, the 4th and our hero. And we're going to start studying the Rabbi Akiva stuff because the Elisha ben Abuya stuff is being advertised as its own Talmud class on Mondays at noon throughout the month of July. So our timing is just 1 week off. I almost got the timing to go into it seamlessly. But rather than have us stop and skip next week or whatever, we're actually going to go ahead. We're going to skip over Elisha ben Abuya, pick up with Akiva, and keep going. So, I am at a story about Ben Zoma, which is a Tanu Rabbanan Maaseh b'Rabbi Yehoshua. Okay, Rabbi Yehoshua ben Chananya. And you have that in the Hebrew with a Taf Resh on the 6th line of the Hebrew on 15a. And on the 15a that I've labeled, I believe, page 10. Do you see page 10 on the far right in pink? Is that correct?
Well, is it the paragraph our rabbis taught?
Actually, I've got the one that's numbered wrong. So we want to be on, it's either 10 or 11. What's going to divide between the two? 10 is correct. So turn to page, I've labeled in the top right side of the pages in pink, page numbers.
We don't, some of us don't have it. So is it where it says our rabbis taught?
Yes.
Okay.
Once Rabbi Joshua ben Hananiah was standing on a step on the Temple Mount.
Yeah, got it.
Everyone with me? So it's 15a, the first new paragraph in the Sansino. It's 15a, the sixth line of the Hebrew. It's 15a, the third paragraph in the Schottenstein.
Maybe you have to go the other way.
15a, the first word on the top left is statement for Samuel, parenthesis 15a. You see that?
I don't know, I don't.
Word statement?
Oh, there,
Yeah.
Yeah, this is where.
okay, thank you.
Good? Hey, Phil, how you doing over there?
Trying my best.
I'm sorry we don't have any actual lunch. We have a bowl of chips, a bowl of pretzels, a bowl of popcorn, and a tray of cookies. Okay, here we go. Our rabbis taught. Tanu Rabbanan. You have a text, Phil, or do you need it? There you go.
Thank you very much.
We're here. We're at the Tanu Rabbanan in the Hebrew. All right. Tanu Rabbanan. Maaseh Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania. There's an incident of Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanania. Shayomed al Gav Ma'aleh Behar Habayit. He's standing upon a step in the Temple Mount. And for those of you who don't know the geography of the Temple Mount, the temple is on not a natural plateau, but a filled-in plateau, which means there are flat levels, and then there's steps to a new flat level, and there's more steps to a new flat level. And in a time of peace, if you can go up and travel up there and wander around by the Dome of the Rock, you'll see some of those old arches and steps are still in place there. So somewhere up there in the Temple Mount area, when the temple was up and running for business, before its destruction, Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania is standing on a step. V'ra'ahu ben Zoma v'lo amad milefanav. And he saw Ben Zoma, who did not stand up before him. Why should Ben Zoma have stood up before him?
Because she's the senior one.
He's the senior rabbi. Ben Zoma is the young rabbi. Remember, in the Haggadah, Ben Zoma says, I'm a man of 20, but I'm like a man of 80. That's the guy. So Ben Zoma is a wunderkind among the rabbis. He's young. He's smart. He's with Rabbi Akiva in Pardes. He's evidently quite a flash in the pan kind of guy. So this is after the Rabbi Akiva incident and the Pardes incident. Rabbi Yeshua ben Hanania, an elder statesman, walks up to him. Ben Zoma does not stand up. Amar lo, he says to him, Ma'ayin ula'ayin Ben Zoma. Basically, it says from where to where Ben Zoma, meaning Ben Zoma, have you got your head in the game? You're distracted? You're daydreaming? What are you doing? What are you thinking about? Why so deep in thought? You can phrase it any way you want, depending on what kind of a character you want Yoshua ben Hanania to be, right? You want him to be offended, then you interpret it that way. If you want him to be curious, you do that way. Admiring that way.
So is Ben Zoma sitting down, or he just didn't?
He's standing.
He's standing.
No, he's sitting. He's sitting. He has to be sitting because he didn't stand up. Velo amad. He didn't stand. So Ben Zoma is sitting there, he's Rodin. He's Rodin's thinker on the steps there. Lost in thought completely. This great rabbi, Yoshua ben Hanania, walks up, and rather than fumbling and standing up and saying, Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi, and greeting his rabbi with due respect, he just, still thinking, whatever. And he gets the greeting that my teenagers give me at the breakfast table. All right. So he answers him. What does he say? Amarlo. Ben Zoma responds to him. Sofeh hayiti ben maim ha'elyonim l'maim ha'tachtonim. I'm looking at the upper water. I'm looking between the upper waters and the lower waters. What does that refer to?
The sky and the land.
So in the story of creation, God's spirit is over the waters, and he separates the waters from the waters, and these he calls
The sky.
the heavens, and underneath he has waters that are underneath the earth, because he brings the dry land forth out of those waters. So you have water, earth, water is the cosmology of the first chapter of Genesis. And this is what he's looking between those waters, the place where those waters meet. And he says, "Ve'ein ben zelazeh ela shalosh etzbaot bilvad." And he says, there's 3 fingers breadth right there between those, all the waters of the heavens and all the waters that are beneath the earth. There's this gap. There's a space of just 3 fingers breadth. That's his answer. Is that an answer to Rabbi Hanania's question?
Nope.
Yoshua ben Hanani's question?
Yeah.
What was Rabbi Yoshua ben Hanani's question?
Why didn't you get up before?
Where are you going? What are you doing? And the implication...
Wither is our translation.
Whence and whither. Sometimes I love this on Sino. Whence and whither, good Zoma. It's not exact.
Kind of an answer.
It's kind of an answer. If the answer is what are you doing? Why so deep in thought? He's thinking. You could picture almost like an absent person saying, I'm looking between the waters. There's just 3 fingers breadth. Right? That's his answer.
Sounds like the horizon, actually.
Could be, right? The horizon. It's on the edge. It's right at the point where the 2 meet. Right? So, and then he says, Shneimar. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. And he says, as it says, he quotes a verse from the beginning of Genesis, and the Spirit of God is hovering over the waters. Why? Why is 3 hands breadth like God hovering over the waters? Kayona shemerachefet al banei ve'ena nogad. Like a dove who has the custom when she comes into the nest to kind of hover, flapping over her young, but she never hits them with the wings. There's always this space, according to him, of 3 fingers breadths between the dove and her fledglings in the nest. So that's an interesting answer to how you doing today. Right?
Pretty sorry he asked.
Well, Amar lehen Rabbi Yeshua letalmidav. So Rabbi Yeshua moves along and goes over and says to his students, Adayin ben Zoma mibachutz. Ben Zoma is still outside. What does that mean?
Crazy.
Still thinking.
He's still something not totally right.
It's Paul Simon's song.
Right?
Crazy, I believe.
All right, so he's outside of something. Now we can argue what the outside of what it is, and there are many interpretations. Rashi has one. It's based in the Midrash. There's other people who bring the Rambam here as far as his idea of the palace and the heavens, and how the people closest to God are in the palace, and the next people are in the halls of the palace, and the next people are outside the palace but in the city, and then there's people who are outside the city, God help them, and that this is all a metaphor for how close you are to God, which is a metaphor for how close you are to true understanding and faith and in divinity and metaphysics and all of this kind of stuff. It doesn't say that. It just says, Adayin ben Zoma bachutz. He's still outside. So there's a sense, the simple pshat, the simple meaning of this is there's a pejorative sense of where he is. Somehow he's maladjusted.
Well, in the previous study of this, didn't he become the Ben Zoma?
He did.
And is this
V'yifka.
a continuation of the
Remember,
story?
he was hitzit v'nifka. So he glimpsed.
Yeah.
Remember, Akiva said when you get there, there's going to be this polished marble rock, and when you see it, don't say mayim mayim.
Right.
And then Ben Azai is hitzitz, he glimpses, and he dies. Ben Zoma is hitzitz v'nifka. So he glimpsed at something, presumably the presence of God or something like that, and he becomes mentally damaged.
All right, so in
So he's bachutz, but he's bachutz what? He's outside of what?
his head, his senses.
Maybe.
Yeah,
He's out of his
that's
senses.
what I meant.
He's out of his mind. Could be. Something along those lines. We don't know. With all due respect to Rashi and Rambam and everybody who brings all the Midrashim and everything that they want to bring the other metaphors to bear, it's not actually here. Mikdei. So, let us see. V'ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei hamayim. Emahave. So he's telling his students, Ben Zoma is still a little not right. Because after all, the verse, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. When is it? Without looking ahead, when does it happen? What day of creation?
First day.
First day. When are the waters divided?
First day.
Second day. So he can't be looking at the division between the waters and use the proof text that's God over the waters on the first day. So Rabbi Yoshua ben Hananiah is using this to indicate that Ben Zoma is not exactly thinking right.
I was trying to decide, is this because he's mentally ill, or is he in some kind of altered state, like meditative state?
Neither. I don't think we can really use the modern idea of mentally ill, not in the way we would mean it. But he is somehow, it's closer to almost a post-traumatic stress kind of thing. He's not in an altered state that he's going to come back from. It says vayifga, he's broken. But it's like a person who has had some form of an overwhelming experience that leaves them somehow broken. I don't know if that's a mental illness. I think of illness as being biochemical, but I'm probably totally wrong on that because I have no training in psychology and psychiatry.
No, illness is not necessarily
It doesn't have to be
biochemical.
biochemical.
Okay. In which case, what is it?
Well,
Can we say it's
He's
spiritual
still
then?
absorbed with the
Well,
experience. He
that's what I was
hasn't
trying
gotten
to
over
figure
the
out.
experience.
Is he in some kind of trance state?
For the rabbis, there's clearly a spiritual thing that's happened here that leaves him contemplating higher things incorrectly, drawing proof texts about God down where they don't exactly, that not that he's not seeing what he's seeing and not that he's necessarily wrong, but he's not right. Right? So there's something about his contact with divinity that has, made him not right. Okay, Bayom Harishon is the answer. It's on the first day that Merachefet happens. Havdalah ben Bayom Sheni Hu Dahavai. And the division of the waters took place on the second day. Dichtiv is written, Vayihi Ma'avdil ben Mayim L'Mayim. As it says on the second day, God said let there be a firmament, and he divided the waters from the waters. Okay. Now, the Gemara says, V'chama. So, Ben Zoma said, in response to Yoshua ben Hananiah, that there's a division between the upper waters and the lower waters. That's 3 fingers breadth. The Gemara comes in and goes, okay, how big is it? Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov ki mlo nima. He says, it's like a full hair. 1 hair. That's the distance between the upper and the lower waters. V'Rabbanan amrei ki guded gamla. And the rabbi said that it's like the plank of a bridge. Right? In other words, the space between planks of a bridge. Do planks of a bridge actually have a space between them? No. Well, technically, yes. They're right next to each other, but nothing is completely obliterating of space when there's 2 things next to each other. So is that closer than the hair or farther than the hair? I don't know. Marzutra v'itame Rav Asi Amar. Marzutra, and others say it was Rav Asi, comes in and says, Kitre glime de frise ahadade. It's the distance is like 2 garments, one lying on top of the other. So you lay 2 sheets down, spread them out, one on top of the other. Is there space between them? Kind of, sort of, but not really. Right? Yeah. That's what the space. So they're actually in contact with each other in that sense, kind of overlying each other. And the next one is Kitre kase de sichife ahadade. And others say it's actually like the nesting of cups, 1 cup inside another. So you have this concept that there's a little bitty gap. Then you have the idea that there's a gap that is really, you can't tell. Then you have the idea that they're actually touching each other. And then you have the idea that it's one nesting inside the other. Do any of these matter?
No.
No.
Splitting hairs.
But now we've got Marzutra and Rav Asi, and that tells you not only that, plus we're into Aramaic here, in case you didn't notice. This is a stam of the Gemara coming in before the topic is over to throw in the other things that he knows. And Zutra and Asi are the last 2 Amoraim before the editing of the Gemara. So once you're quoting Rav Asi, you're done, unless you're going to back up chronologically. So they've now done all the Ben Zoma stuff on creation or Merkavah that they know about. Okay? So remember, we started the chapter saying you can't talk about creation with more than 2. You can't talk about Merkavah with more than 1. Right? And so they're doing Ben Zoma on creation before they move on. Got it?
Got it.
This is where Elisha ben Abuya comes in. We're going to skip him. So now, because we're going to do him in July. The entire month of July is going to be those pages that we're skipping right now. So we're going to go on to 15b, at the very, very end of 15b. The last sentence on 15b. So go until you see a 16a and then back up. So I see a 16a with the words on the top, worthy to avail himself of my glory, 16a. Back up, 1 page. It's numbered 13 for those of you with pink numbers. And it says, Rabbi Akiva went up unhurt. Got it? If you're in the Hebrew, you're on 15b, the last lines of the Hebrew. The very last line. Rabbi Akiva
Went up unhurt. Is that it?
That's it. Okay, so Rabbi Akiva, Allah b'shalom v'yarad b'shalom.
Yeah.
Okay, is that what the original Baraita said? Is that the exact language of the original Baraita? The exact language of the original Baraita was, there's 4 were entered Pardes, Ben Zoma, Acher Rabbi Akiva, skip, for Rabbi Akiva, Acher Kitzetz, and Rabbi Akiva Yatsa B'Shalom. So in the original Baraita, it was Arba Nichnasu, Rabbi Akiva Yatsa B'Shalom. That was our language.
Right.
4 went in. Doesn't say whether it's up, down, in, or out. It's just 4 went in. Rabbi Akiva went out in peace. Here, the Baraita is being quoted by the Gemara differently. Rabbi Akiva avla v'shalom v'yarad b'shalom. So this is a different version of the same story. It's a Baraita, so it's from the same age as the Mishnah, as was the first telling of the Baraita. But what we're seeing here is 2 different versions of the Baraita.
Well, it's 2 different languages, but isn't it the same thing? What do you mean? You're the teacher.
It means the same thing.
Does it mean the same thing?
Yes.
If I'm talking about a spiritual experience and I say, I went up into heaven and I came down in peace, is that the same thing as saying, I went in to the divine realm and I came out in peace?
Well, this says went
No,
up.
because you went up.
This
You
version
went-
is saying up and down. The first version just said in and out. They could be the same thing, or they could be conflicting,
Okay.
right? The point is, it's a different version of the Baraita. So the Gemara isn't writing new Baraitas. The editor of the Gemara isn't writing it differently because he doesn't care. He has 2 versions in his library, and now he's bringing the second version, right, to talk about Rabbi Akiva. You're not going to ask me if this is a pregnant version?
No. The other explanation is he just forgot, or, you know.
No,
got it wrong.
the stam of the
Made a
Gemara.
mistake.
No, the stam of the Gemara doesn't get it wrong.
Okay.
When he's bringing 2 Baraitas, Tanu Rabbanan
Right.
means he's quoting. He's got a book. Now there might back in the age of the Mishnah, these might just be scribal errors. So if they're both from the school of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi or the school of Rabbi Ishmael or something like that, and they come from a place in the land of Israel where they are, it's a Baraita.
Right.
And one student wrote it one way and one student wrote it another way, and they weren't paying a lot of care to it because they knew it wasn't going in the Mishnah anyways. Okay, but you need to, now you're going to really go, you have to go find the manuscripts to prove that point, as opposed to the default, which is we've got 2 versions.
Okay.
All right? You didn't appreciate my Shmuel joke about pregnant versions of the Baraita?
Moving on.
Okay, Rabbi Akiva Allah b'shalom v'yarad b'shalom. He goes up in peace, comes down in peace. V'alav hakatuv omer, and the verse says regarding him, Moshcheni acharecha narutza, from Song of Songs. Pull me after you, and we will run. Right? A beautiful image of the 2 lovers getting out to frolic in the field. Malachei sharet l'dechofeu, and even as Rabbi Akiva was doing this, the ministering angels tried to push him out. So he goes in peace, he comes out in peace, and the verse that's used to describe him is basically he is God's beloved, because it quotes Song of Songs, which is a metaphor for God and Israel and their love affair. So, I mean, remember, this is all a Rabbi Akiva tradition, so he's our hero, but this is even good for a Rabbi Akiva tradition. He's God's beloved. The ministering angels tried to push him out. Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and God said to them, Hanichu lizaken zeh, leave this old guy alone. Shira'ui lihishtamesh bichvodi, because he deserves to serve my glory. Wow. To be Rabbi Akiva. Right? All right, so now the Gemara's got to answer a simple problem. Bad things happened to everybody else who went in there. What did Rabbi Akiva do that allowed him to come out in peace? Is it just because he's Rabbi Akiva and by his natural, makeup, he's immune to bad things happening while on metaphysical journeys? Or did he do something? And the fact that in the original source, he adjured them not to say Mayim Mayim. And then it says they glimpsed and died. They glimpsed and were hurt. They, that kind of thing. It seems like there's some action that you can take there that's harmful. So since he came out in peace, there must be some action that he took there that protected him. And of course, in the rabbinic tradition, what is the action that is superior to all other actions? Some form of prayer, specifically quoting Torah. Right? And most of our prayers in the Siddur are actually just cut and pasted, rearranged quotes from the Tanakh that we've turned into prayers. So when we quote Torah, that is the highest activity you can be engaged in as a person, as a rabbi, as a Jew. And so they're going to immediately presume that there's some Torah verse that he quoted that protected him from being harmed in this precarious and divine situation. Okay?
Like Lot's wife.
Lot's wife looks back. It's another case of looking back, right? She looks back and she's turned to salt. Interesting. The idea that you glimpse at the things you're not supposed to glimpse at. All right. Amar Rabba Bar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. So Rabba Bar Chana says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, V'ata mirevavot kodesh. Here's the verse he said. He says from Deuteronomy, and God approached with some of the holy myriads of angels. Okay? So that's what he said. So he said, he proclaimed the coming of God with a verse from Deuteronomy. Okay? Otu birevava shalo, he saw a symbol within his own myriad. So he saw whatever he was glimpsing at is a myriad of God, some overwhelming forces of God, but he saw in it an ot, a symbol, some symbolic thing that allowed him to understand and not be harmed. So he wasn't seeing directly whatever it was. He saw indirectly through some form of symbol, and that somehow protected him. Rabbi Abahu Amar, Rabbi Abahu says, no, that's not the verse he said. He said, Dagul miravava. And the whole verse in this is from Song of Songs again. My beloved is white yet ruddy, preeminent above a myriad. Dagul, lidagel is to muster forces, rally around the flag kind of thing.
Oh, Degel is fire.
Dego is
Right,
fine.
right. So dagul means mustard, not what you put on hamburgers, mustard, but to muster the troops. They are mustered. So he is. My beloved is white, yet ruddy, and he is mustered above the forces of the many. That kind of thing. So he's strong and virile, and so he quotes this according to Rabbi Abahu. Dugmahu miravava shelo, which means he recognizes that this is a likeness of his myriad that he is seeing. Again, not thinking that he's seeing God when he sees whatever it is he sees, but he's seeing indirectly some symbol or image of God's greatness or God's power. Reish Lakish Amar, Reish Lakish says, nope, that's not the verse. The verse is, Ha Adonai Tzivaot Shemo. He is the Lord of hosts, forces, armies. So in this case, whatever he's glimpsing that is in all of these verses, sounding like he's glimpsing the hosts of heaven, he's not confusing them with God. And in this last one, he doesn't see a symbol or anything else, but he sees the hosts and he goes, God is the Lord of hosts. He doesn't say God is the hosts. He says God is the Lord of hosts, so he's drawing the proper conclusion, and that's how he can be Yatzah B'Shalom. So I tell the kids when they have a bar mitzvah, they put on the talis for the first time, and I say, I tell them this thing about creation. We're on the first day of creation. God says, let there be light. And as you've seen already in this chapter, which is where I get it from, you have this idea of, how can it be the light? Sun and moon and stars come on the fourth day. Where is the light possibly coming from? It can't be light. And then I say the rabbis have pages and pages of answers about what the light means. And when the rabbis talk for pages and pages answering a question, what does it mean? It means they don't know. Because if they knew, they would have just told you, right? So here we are with three different verses being quoted by rabbis about what it was Rabbi Akiva said that saved his skin when he was on this little journey. What does that mean?
They don't know.
We have no idea what he did. We have no idea what he said, but he must have said something.
But he was also more sophisticated than the other guys.
Absolutely. It's a great rabbi.
So therefore,
Shema been created yet?
What's that?
The prayer of the Shema?
They would have known the Shema, for sure.
Because I was wondering if that would.
But Shema is what you say before you die. So for him to say the Shema in that moment would have been preparation for death.
Oh, okay. But we say it in Shabbat. And there's nothing.
Correct. We say it every day, but for the rabbis in this context of being endangered and saying Shema, it could only mean that he was preparing for death.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. If you're in the airplane and the plane's doing this thing and you don't think you're going to get out of it alive, you're supposed to say Shema.
Or the Holocaust survivors.
Yeah. When you think you're going to die, you're in a situation where you think this is it. You're supposed to say Shema. Okay. Adon hu b'tzava shelo, and his interpretation of Adonai Tzavaot Shemo is that he is the Lord over his own army. V'Rabbi Chia bar Abba amar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rav Chia bar Abba said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, which counters the original here, where it was Rabba bar Bar Chana who said in the Rabbi Yochanan. He says, and now we have to say, Lo baruach Adonai, God is not in the wind. V'achar haruach ra'ash v'lo bera'ashu, and after the wind was a noise, and God was not in the noise. V'achar harash eish, and after the noise was fire. V'lo ba'eish Adonai, and God was not in the fire. Ha'eish kol d'mama daka, and after the fire was a thin, small voice. V'hinei Adonai over, and behold, God was passing over in front of him. This is the vision of Elisha from 1 Kings chapter 9. And he has, the Sinai experience, but it's the anti-Sinai experience. He's in the desert, he's at a mountain, he's seeking an experience of God, and he gets the exact opposite of Moses. Behold, there is a wind, and he says, God is not in the wind. And there's an earthquake, and God is not in the earthquake. And there is a fire, and God is not in the fire. And there is a thin, small voice, and behold, he sees God passing before him. So God is in the tiny, silent voice inside you, not the pyrotechnics in the
Why
outside.
doesn't he say, and God is not in the water?
He doesn't have water in that vision. He's in a desert.
Oh.
nevertheless, yes.
I mean, that doesn't stop them in other places, but that would seem to be the answer. Okay, so Tanu Rabbanan, now we get a Baraita. Okay, new Baraita. Shisha Devarim Ne'amru Ba Shedim. There are 6 things said regarding demons. Now, why are we getting a Baraita about demons?
I don't know.
Because we just had a thing about a guy who went into a spiritually, magically, divinely dangerous place and got out of it by quoting Torah verses. So evidently, if you run into a demon, a shade, which is a Hebrew word for a
Ghost.
a destructive nature spirit of some kind, you should quote the right verse of Torah and you'll be safe.
And if you quote the wrong one, you're for following.
The shadim will get you. So did the rabbis believe in shadim? The rabbis of the apparently they did. We have angelology, we have demonology, we have all this kind of stuff that's there. It doesn't make its way into kind of normative Judaism forever, but there are times and places, and any place where we are a place where culturally Jews believe in these kinds of things, they have ample stuff in Talmud to hang it on.
All right, but this was an abrupt change. In other words, he was.
Since we're talking about the ability of Torah verses to be used as magical amulets against destruction, in one case, we're going to use them as a magical amulet against destruction. In another case, is it the topic we were on? No. But it's on the topic that came up.
It's you got to get used to Talmudic.
Right. We have an outline going here. And somebody just talked, we went, Roman numeral 1, capital A, number 1, little a, I brought up something interesting. So I is going to get a dash and a dash underneath it of 2 different ways that Torah can be powerful. And then we're going to get back to Rabbi Akiva. Right? All right, so here we go. So there are 6 Devarim Ne'amru B'Shedim, 6 things that are said versus demons. Shlosha b'malchei sharet. 3 are of the ministering angels. Ushlosha b'vnei adam. And 3 that human beings do. Shlosha b'malchei sharet. The 3 from the ministering angels are Eishelhem kanafayim l'malchei sharet. These are similarities between demons and the angels. Demons have wings, like the ministering angels. V'tasin misof ha'olam v'ad sofo b'malchei sharet. And demons fly from one end of the world to the other, like the ministering angels. V'yod'in ma she'atid lihiyot b'malchei sharet. And they know what is the future destiny, just like ministering angels do. So demons have all this information. They can go from one end of the earth to the other. They have wings, and they know the future. Now, the Gemara is going to interrupt that Baraita before finishing it off and hearing the 3 things how demons are similar to humans. V'yod'im salkadatach. Can it even enter your mind? What? What was the last thing we said?
That they know.
Yodin da'atid lavo. They know they know the future. Can it even enter your mind that something as lowly and evil as a demon could possibly know the mind of God and know the future? Ella shom'im me'acharei ha'pargud b'malchei sharet. Rather, they're listening from behind the partition, just like the ministering angels do. So they don't actually know the future, but they're on the other side of the divide between the partition and the Holy of Holies in heaven and God, and they're eavesdropping, and that way they're finding out this information, which they themselves do not naturally have the ability to know. Do we care?
No.
Not necessarily. Ushlosha kivnei adam. Now, this is the 3 ways in which demons are like people. Ochlin v'shotim kivnei adam. They eat and drink, just like people. Parin uravin kivnei adam. They can be fruitful and multiply. They reproduce like human beings. Umetin kivnei adam, and they can be killed. They die, just like human beings. They're mortal. Pretty cool, huh? Well, since we just mentioned 6 of something, let's talk about 6 something else. Shisha devarim ne'amru kivnei adam. And there are 6 characteristics of humans. Shlosha k'malchei sharet, shlosha k'behema. So there are 3 human characteristics that are like the heavenly ministering angels, and there's 3 human characteristics which are animalistic in nature. In this way, we're just like animals. Okay. Shlosha k'malchei sharet, the 3 like we're the ministering angels. Yeshelhem dad k'malchei sharet. We have understanding, just like the ministering angels. Mehalchin b'koma zekufa k'malchei sharet. We walk upright, just like the angels. Misaprim bilshon hakodesh k'malchei sharet, and we speak Hebrew, just like the ministering angels. Fair enough?
Sure.
You with me? How's my scientist doing at the end of the room?
I'm listening.
It's just good to be out of the house on a nice day, right?
That's not why I'm here.
Shlosha kivei and the 3 characteristics by which a human is like an animal. Ochlin v'shotim kivei we eat and drink like an animal. Parin uravim kivei we are fruitful and multiply like an animal. Umotzein re'i kivei and we eliminate waste like an animal. So, evidently demons don't poop. But we do.
Well, I know about we.
Okay, so since we're talking about numbers of things, Kol hamistakel ba'arba devarim. So we talked about the 4 who went into Pardes, and now we're going to talk about, go back to the Mishnah. Okay? Now, do you remember the end of the Mishnah? Put your finger there. Go all the way back to the beginning of chapter 2.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Where's the
11B?
beginning? That sounds right.
Chapter 2.
11B.
The beginning of chapter 2?
It's about the
It's
4th.
either a Roman numeral 2 or a regular 11.
Where it says, it's in the block print, on the first page, chapter 2, Mishnah.
Subject of forbidden relations.
Exactly. The very end of that, Kol hamistakel ba'arba devarim, anyone who looks deeply into 4 things, ra'ui lo or ratui lo ki'ilu lo bale olam. It's better if he'd never come into the world. Ma lamala, ma lamata, ma lifnim, ma la'achor. What is above, what is below, what is before, what is after. V'chol shelo chas al kavod kono, and anyone who has no heed for the honor of his creator, ratui lo shelo ba le'olam, it's better that he never come into the world. So, we've solved to the Gemara's satisfaction the prohibition on sexual teaching with more than 3, the prohibition on Maaseh Bereshit with more than 2, and evidently Maaseh Merkavah with more than 1. The Gemara is done with that part of the Mishnah. Okay? Now, we skipped the Acher bit with Elisha ben Abuya. We're going to do that through July. So we haven't had all of that yet, but at this point the Gemara is done with that. It goes back to what's called the Seifa of the Mishnah, the end portion of the Mishnah, which is a new topic. Anybody who's trying to look too deeply into these 4 things, it's better he should not have been. And now we're going to look at that. All right?
Excuse me, this is
So
what
we're
I
saying
said.
on one thing.
If you say don't look too deeply, then what, you should accept it at face value without questioning?
What we saw when this first got touched on at the beginning of the chapter was you can't look earlier than the first day of creation. You can't look higher than the hashmal on the image of the chariot. So the image of the chariot had a point right there between the throne and the image of a man where there was hashmal flying around, whatever that flashing, flickering, lightning fire was. Above that is malamala. That's what's above it. And anybody who tried to look above that got zapped in the earlier stories we've seen. So presumably the same kind of concept of what's under. Now they didn't have a problem with what's under because they did this whole thing about what's under the earth. Under the earth are the mountains because the mountains are on the winds and the winds are on the seas. And they quoted all these Torah verses to build this whole kind of world of the underworld. They didn't have a problem with that, but we're going to go back to it now. So this is kind of saying you could talk about what's inside the scope of the cosmos, but you can't go above it or below it or before it was or after it will be. Okay? So 2 of these are temporal, 2 of these are spatial. Before and after are temporal, above and below are spatial. Okay. Bishlama malamala malamata malachorachai. It's understandable. You wouldn't want
Where are
to.
we now?
I'm where it says
16A.
I don't see any A, I see 16.
16A.
Oh.
16A,
Top is second.
where it
column.
says 13 in the pink. Look for the pink number 13. Come back to see pink 13.
Whoever speculates upon 4 things. Right?
Yes.
Top of the
13.
second column. Very top of the second column.
That's in the English.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, some of us are.
Yeah, okay.
First in Hebrew.
Got it.
Madala Shamara Baba.
I got to go one more page. I got to go 14. I'm sorry. Yes, top right of is 14.
16A.
16A.
Yeah, no, but I wrote in the
Yes,
pink.
the pink, he's going by the pink numbers.
Whatever the numbers are, that's where I am. Whosoever.
Okay.
All right? Whosoever speculates on 4 things, it would be a mercy if he had not come into the world, etc. Okay, now, granted, regarding what is above and what is below, or what is after, sure, Ella lifanim, but what was before? And the implication is, why can't I talk about what was before? Madahava hava. How am I possibly going to get in trouble thinking and talking about something that already happened? It already happened. What trouble can I cause? Mala mala, what's up there where I don't belong, I might cause trouble. I might be Charlie in the chocolate factory, bumping into the fizzy lifting drink ceiling. I'm going to make schmutz up there, and it's going to cause problems. Or malamata, what's below, I might enter these lower realms and mess with whatever. Sheol, the dead, who knows. That's a problem. What's after, to speculate what comes after the end of time, that's a closed door to us. We're not supposed to know it or we would be able to see it, so fine. But, malifnim, what happened before creation came, how could that possibly hurt anything? Dahava hava, what was. How could I muck it up? It's done. All right, so the Gemara answers. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar da'amrei tarvaiho. Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Elazar both said, Mashal lemelech basar v'dam shamar la'avadav. There's a parable of a king of flesh and blood who told his servants, B'nu li palterin gedolin al hashpa, build me a magnificent palace on a trash heap. Halchu vanulo, they went and they built it for him. Ein ritzono shel melech lahazkir shem ashpa, and it is not the desire of the king that anyone should make any mention of the ash heap. Okay? So, we call it Battery Park. We don't call it landfill. Right? It's called Battery Park, even though it's landfill. Right? We call it Chelsea Piers, as opposed to sunken ship wasteland, where they dumped all of the schooners and all the things that were broken, and then they filled it in with rocks and garbage and trash until it was big enough that they could start building houses on it. Right? So when a king like reclaims the wasteland and bulldozes it and builds a fine palace on top of it, he doesn't want it to be known as the house of trash. So that's why God doesn't want us talking about what came before creation. That's a very interesting statement to a guy like me, because a guy like me is interested in cosmology, the nature of the universe, all this kind of stuff. How did God create the universe?
Just with a whisk of his hand.
Okay, so we have been raised to believe just with a whisk of his metaphorical hand. Let there be, and it was. What was just before he said, let there be?
We don't know, nothing.
We have been raised to believe absolutely nothing. This is called creation ex nihilo. The creation out of nothing. There was absolutely, totally nothing. And I don't mean nothing like the absence of a thing. It's the nothing that's not even the absence of a thing. It's absolute nothing. There was no thing. No chaos, no order, no stuff, no previous worlds. Nothing. That's what we have been raised to believe.
Wait a minute. Doesn't
But the Torah doesn't say that. The Torah says, Ruach Elohim merachefet al pnei tahom, or al pnei hamayim. The Spirit of God was over the waters, and the waters were a tahom, and there was tohu and vohu, chaos, right? So, Rabbi Levi ben Gershon and others, and I'm in the category of the others, I do not believe in creation ex nihilo. I don't think our Torah does that. I don't think philosophically it makes any sense. I don't think scientifically it makes any sense. I don't think things come into being out of nothing. However, it is possible that there was a time that what existed did not have the structure
Of a thing.
of
Something.
what the Aristotelians called form and scientists call laws of nature. The stuff that holds matter together in patterns that are reliable. This is iron, this is carbon, this is helium, right? This is gravity, right? This is electromagnetism. That these things have predictable physical forms. If you had all of the material of the universe without any of the structure and the laws of that universe, that would be pure chaos. You'd have all your stuff, it would be totally chaotic, it would be impossible to measure it because you can't get outside of it to measure it because there's no dependability where I can have a reference point to measure, because if I can stand still, that means there's some rule in place that's holding me still, and I'm just blowing apart chaotic matter, so I can't measure anything. If you can't measure the movement of chaos, then therefore you don't have time, because time is the measurement of motion. When things stop moving, it's impossible to measure time, unless you're outside somewhere else where other things are moving, and you can measure that non-moving thing relative to the motion of the other things, which is why Einstein's theory of relativity works, where some things are moving faster than others in different places and so forth, and time passes differently between them because time is not a thing. Motion is a thing. Okay, I just weirded you all out with a huge metaphysical cosmology, but if you don't have the rules, you don't have time, and you can't talk
Well, that's
about
what
it,
chaos means,
and that's
doesn't it?
chaos, and that's chaos. I happen to believe, and the Torah says, in my opinion, my reading of it, that God tamed chaos. He informed chaos with structure and with laws, just like he tames us and informs us with structure and laws.
Right, but where'd you get the idea that you propose we believe, or we've been raised to believe, that it was not?
Creation
I
made-
wasn't raised that way.
Well, you had heretical teachers, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
but it's-
You have creation ex nihilo is certainly by the Middle Ages. It's throughout all
Yeah.
of the Jewish texts on this stuff.
Really?
All of it. You go to early Midrashim, it's not so clear by any means. And here we are in the Talmud, the age of early Midrashim, and guess what? It's referring to what came before as a trash heap. In other words, there's something there.
Right.
It's of no value, it's of no beauty, it's worthless, but it exists. And the Melech Basar V'Dam, it's like a king who has built a beautiful palace on a trash heap.
Okay.
All right?
But now,
So
this is,
it was an organizing and structural principle that allowed it.
Yes.
So does the, anywhere in the Talmud, does it anywhere talk about evolution, or not really, that was just so much later?
The question is, does the Talmud even hint at evolution? No.
no.
The Talmud has no concept of species developing and changing over time, or new species originating in time.
According to what I learned anyway, when you take just the Torah, it negates evolution or any concept of the black hole or whatever. This is the first place where it's been discussed by rabbis that there was something there.
Yeah. The rabbis are not threatened by the idea that there's something before creation, and that what God does is create what we see.
But nowhere in the Bible do you hear that.
Except for the first chapter of Genesis, where it says God creates, God separates the waters from the waters. What are the waters? Where'd they come from? He doesn't say, he never says, Yehi mayim, let there be water. He never says that. It's just there.
Was there anything else that was just there? Besides whatever the trash heap?
God? No, God, water, and chaos. God, water, and chaos. That's what seems to be there. And I would say that that's got to be a pretty lonely existence.
No one to play with.
All right, so God creates a cosmos that has the possibility for love, relationship, and life. And that's the whole point. And that's what we're doing. That's what we provide God, is love,
And the
relationship.
Mishnah says that if you inquire about before and after, you're gonna, right?
It says it's better you should not have been in the world.
Right.
It doesn't say you'll die
Well,
or be killed. It's
it's
just,
certainly the highest form of condemnation.
it's not an approbation, right? It's bad. You,
So where do they get the idea?
from the first chapter of Genesis, they're seeing chaos and waters. By the way, Job also refers to chaotic preexistence. Isaiah talks about God's creation being the conquering of the Leviathan, which is known in the Canaanite myths as an ancient chaos sea monster that the pantheon god El or Baal has slaughtered and split and separated and created the world within the midst of the conquered chaos creature. That's a known ancient myth that predates Israelite society. So Genesis has really cleaned up that myth and gotten all of the beast mythology and the paganism out of it and made it only one God, and he's doing it not with a sword but by talking, and it's really it's very sterile and pristine version of older stories that we see in the Ugaritic myths and in lots of places that predate Israelite society.
What do Muslims believe as far
Muslims believe creation out of nothing.
out of nothing?
There's no subtlety to that.
By whom?
Same God we believe in. In Arabic, you call him Allah.
Not Mohammed.
No, Muhammad is a prophet.
Prophet.
Just a prophet. He's their Moses, although they believe in Moses too. Okay, ready?
Yeah.
Then we have 2 minutes. Let's see what I can leave us with. The Gemara goes on and quotes the end of the Mishnah. Kol shelo chas al kavod kono, whoever has no heed for the honor of his creator, ratui lo shelo ba leolam, it's better he should never have come into the world.
Stanley just said,
What's that?
better he
Yeah,
should not have come.
exactly. Mahi, so really? What kind of a person? Rabbi Abba Amar, Zamistikel Bakeshet. This is somebody who gazes off at the rainbows. Rabbi Yosef Amar, Zehaover Evera Baseter. This is somebody who, he does his Avera Baseter. He does his sins in secret.
Right.
All right? So somebody who stares off at the rainbow presumably is trying to see over the rainbow. Somewhere over the rainbow. Right? There's a whole other world out there over there. That kind of a concept. Rabbi Yossi says, if you do your sins in secret, there are people who do lots of sins in secret and pretend that they don't when they're in public. Mystic. So let's talk at the rainbow guy. Dichtiv, as is written, Kamarei hakeshet asher yeh be'anan b'yom hageshem, It's the appearance of a rainbow, like it is of the cloud on a rainy day. Kain mare hanoga saviv. So was the appearance of the brilliance all around. Hu mare demut kvod Adonai. This was the appearance of the likeness of God. So just when you thought we were away from the Merkavah, it comes back. So that one of the images in the Merkavah is that it was like an image of a rainbow, right? Before the end of a rainy day. So the person who's looking at that is analogous to the person who is looking like at the Chashmal. This is the person who's looking too high. They've just gone and looked at a different place in the Ezekiel vision of the Merkavah to see where that point is. And it's the point where things start to look like rainbows. Rabbi Yosef said, no, it's the person who sins in secret. Kid Rabbi Yitzchak, according to the words of Rabbi Yitzchak, Da'amar Rabbi Yitzchak, because Rabbi Yitzchak says, Kol ha'over avera b'seter ki'ilu dochek raglei shechina. Everybody who sins in secret, it's as if he pushes away the feet of the Shekhinah, the divine presence. Shene'emar, Ko amar Adonai hashemayim kisi va'aretz hadam raglai. As God said, the heavens are my throne, the earth is my